In my video a few days ago, I mocked the Bharat Empire's communication tech, and I got a fierce backlash from Bharat netizens. Since he wrote a chunk of text, it's not easy for me to reply with my phone. And since I'm preparing a 6G related video anyway, why not first talk about the Bharat Empire's 5G and 6G? This netizen pointed out that India has its own homegrown 5G tech, and Jio's 5G equipment is 100% made in India. Yes, the Bharat Empire is a magical country, always pulling off stuff you'd never imagine. In March 2020, Ambani's Jio, with zero background in 2G, 3G, or 4G communication tech, suddenly announced they'd independently developed India's 5G tech, and it was a success. Anyone who knows India should realize their old habit of bragging is at it again. But in India, as long as you dare to brag, someone's gonna believe it. Modi boasts India will be a developed nation by 2040, and tons of people buy it. Even though India's per capita GDP is lower than Bangladesh's, lower than many African countries too, even though they have the world's largest extreme poverty population, with lots of families lacking toilets, they believe India can become a developed nation in a decade or two. A country that hasn't achieved manned spaceflight claims it successfully explored Mars. Moon South Pole landing plans and space satellite docking plans, with no valid photos or videos, are believed to be huge successes. A country that can't even make a decent rifle claims it developed a homegrown aircraft carrier. In short, the word shame doesn't exist in the Bharat Empire's dictionary. Lying and faking get zero blame in this country. So what's Jio's so-called 100% homegrown 5G tech? Just Google it. Ask AI assistants like GPT or Grok, and you'll quickly figure out that India's so-called independent 5G tech is just buying core components from Nokia, Ericsson, and others, then doing system integration. If you ask which parts are made in India, I'd guess the chassis, screws, and wires. Honestly, whether India can even produce decent versions of those is questionable. If you check closely, you might spot a Made in China label. India came up with the 5GI standard based on the 3GPP 5G protocol and submitted it to the 3GPP organization. But it's so niche that nobody outside the Bharat Empire uses it. This standard is just some tweaks for special use cases in rural India, still relying on patented tech from Huawei, ZTE, Nokia, Ericsson, Qualcomm, and others. Huawei and ZTE, Chinese companies, hold over 40% of 5G patents. So Indian firms have to bear patent costs whether they buy their gear or not. Since Huawei and ZTE's products have great cost-performance ratios, they're widely used in India. But after the Modi government messed up relations with China, Indians started worrying about the security of Chinese communication gear. So, already dirt-poor India had to shell out big bucks to buy from Western firms like Nokia and Ericsson. Plus, with each Indian state having its own ideas, India's communication standards, equipment sources, and tech specs are a total mess. A real hodgepodge. India's 4G penetration is under 60%, 5G penetration under 30%. Yet they're bragging about leading 6G tech. In reality, a few Indian institutes and companies like IIT and Jio have some 5G patents, but it's less than 1% of China's total. I guess drinking too much cow urine does hurt the brain. Watching these clowns brag on YouTube all day, polluting the comment sections, I've got no choice but to step up and mock them mercilessly. If anyone's gonna lead 6G tech, I'd bet it's China by a long shot. Huawei, ZTE, and other Chinese firms not only hold the most 5G patents, fearless in patent wars and price wars. More importantly, they've got key tech for the 5G to 6G transition nailed down. For example, massive MIMO, millimeter waves and terahertz bands, network slicing, low-power wide-area tech, base station architecture, modulation coding, and more. Don't get it? No worries. These jargon-heavy terms are for the Bharat Empire's engineers to figure out. We're just here to laugh at them. Truth is, China's rise has made the West a million times warier about tech exports. So India copying China's success is next to impossible. Back when Western firms dominated China's telecom gear market, Huawei had to scrape by with cheap, low-quality stuff to survive. Ren Jingfei once wanted to sell Huawei off because Cisco, Nokia, Ericsson, Siemens, and others either hit Huawei with patent lawsuits or slashed prices to grab market share. Huawei's edge wasn't big. Selling to Motorola was something they seriously considered. But Motorola was picky, and the deal fell through. Domestically, Huawei faced fierce competition from ZTE, Datong, and other telecom firms. Especially ZTE with its state-backed cloud. Its market sway was no less than Huawei's. Huawei won out through long-term R&D investment and brutal market battles. When Western firms accuse Huawei of getting tons of Chinese government support, they often ignore that in China, you've got to make your company big and strong first to even qualify for government help. Most firms never reach that point. Huawei, BYD, DJI, and others are just survivor bias. Nowadays, Cisco, Nokia, Ericsson, and other Western firms have totally lost their old glory in front of Huawei and ZTE. Without government protection, they'd probably have been swept out of the market by Chinese firms long ago. If India wants to develop communication tech, it's got way more problems to solve than China did. As business gets more complex, telecom firms have to handle all sorts of commercial ecosystems. Data and bandwidth demands are skyrocketing, and latency requirements keep rising with each new standard. Telecom gear companies don't just need full solutions. They've got to develop core chips in-house. Because nobody's handing over chips, key components like that, to a rival who's a threat. The big players still active in the market, Huawei, ZTE, Nokia, Ericsson, Qualcomm, and others, all have huge patent troves to fight lawsuits and smack down competitors. The long US-China economic and tech war has taught the world that core tech needs to be controlled, keeping it from rivals. The US sanctions China's tech, but if India's telecom industry ever threatens the US or the West, it'll get sanctioned too. China's been hit hard by the US, and it knows damn well it can't let a hostile country like India get core tech. After Modi stirred up border clashes and banned Chinese apps en masse, the Chinese government barred any firms from investing in India's tech industry or transferring tech there. Even tech workers on Apple's production lines aren't allowed to casually go to India to train staff. Some key machines, even parts, can't be sold to India. Big engineering gear, like tunnel boring machines, is no exception. India is a country that can't even make a decent car engine on its own. Its industrial base lags way behind China's. Developing cutting-edge 5G and 6G tech in a tech desert like that is pure daydreaming. I'm begging Bharat netizens to stop reminding me what tech India's mastered. I'll make more videos, smashing your lies one by one. Can't you guys brag less? I need a break too, you know. Lastly, some netizens in the comments have asked me to make videos on specific topics, and I've tried my best to do some. But sorry, some topics are too sensitive, or my knowledge isn't deep enough, so I can't cover them. Because my video making principle is to keep it quick and dirty, finish in a short time, and release right away. I've got to write the script, generate the audio, edit the video, add subtitles, and make the thumbnail. Plus, I've got a website to maintain, family to spend time with, and new stuff to learn. If I missed your comment, or didn't make the video you wanted, all I can say is sorry. In the future, I'll set up an online forum, make some videos teaching people with ideas how to quickly and efficiently create videos, express their views, and profit on YouTube. But for now, I've got to focus on this channel first. Can't split my attention.